Okie dokie. All right then. Brilliant. So, well, I think since we've got Liz here, and Liz has got the problems that she has got, I think it would be really nice to go through the lying posture. And I'm going to do 2 lying postures. I'm going to demonstrate 2 lying postures, and we're going to be using the tall one. We'll do the first one. We're going to use the tall one under our head and the standard one under the shoulder blades. Now then, one under the head, doesn't matter if you haven't got one. You can always be using cushions. I use one because I've got it, and because it happens to be the right size. If I put the butterfly that way, so if we look at the butterfly in this way, we've got 2 curves, haven't we? We've got this top one here, which is more shallow, and then we've got the steeper one under here. Now I find that this top one works really nicely for me to rest my occiput in. So I really like being able to rest. You can see how that fits me there really well. Now that doesn't mean to say it's going to fit everyone, but it fits me really well. And also when I do this particular pose, what it means is that my head is at the right height for my neck to be nice and long. Now you can use the standard one in the same situation. The difference is that when the standard one is on its end, it's not quite as stable as a tall one, which is obviously thicker. It doesn't matter. Once it's in place, if you've got it, then that's absolutely fine. So what's key for setting this up is that we don't strain our neck. So what I do is I put the standard one towards the top end of my mat, and what's going to happen is each of my wings, each of my shoulder blades is going on each wing of the butterfly. And then I'm going to have my head rested on there. So you want to have some pillows in place or something like that. I would say that probably a bolster is going to be too tall. So maybe some pillows. But what we want to make sure that we do is that we get this sweet spot underneath our shoulder blades first of all. And the way in which we do that is we place our shoulder blades on here, and then we kind of walk up and down. Now we want to do that while our head is being cradled by our hands. And last time I think I demonstrated this, I had a frozen shoulder and I wasn't able to do that, was only able to hold my head with one hand. And the reason why we want to do that is because otherwise what happens is we rest our heads on the floor, and then what happens is we end up pushing through our head, which is quite a lot of strain for the neck. So I just need to get tissue because my nose is starting running. So what I'm going to do, and you might want to just watch me demonstrate first of all, lie down, and so my shoulder blades are now on the butterfly, and then I'm going to rest my head in my hands. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk all the way up. So in fact, the butterfly is now below my shoulder blades. Then I'm going to walk myself back down, up and down until I just find that point that feels really comfortable. And then when I'm there, I'm going to bring the tall butterfly in. And what we're looking for here is when we place it, is I want my gaze to be really looking down my nose. And this will obviously help me to come into a nice lengthened position through the back of the neck. Where the eyes go, the head will follow. So if my eyes are looking up, my head is going to look up, and that shortens the whole of the back of the neck. So we look down We look down our nose, the head will want to follow the gaze down, so we've got this lovely length happening through the back of the neck. And then once we're there, we rest our elbows down, fingers pointing up to the ceiling, and then we're going to use this scooping motion, this circular motion of the whole of the kind of up the arms. It's as if I was trying to draw a circle on the ceiling with my fingertips. And what's happening is as I'm rotating like this, what we're getting here is we're getting the neutral position and then external rotation of the upper arm. And then we can just take advantage of that so that we rest the arms out straight. We don't want the arms too far away from the body. I don't really like to see arms out here because I know that most people end up shortening this distance between the shoulders and the tips of the ear. When we come into about 40–45 degrees abduction of the arm away from the trunk, we're much more likely to have lengthened position here from the shoulders to the tip of the ears, and then with the palms uppermost there. Then what I'm going to do is through the bent knees, the feet flat on the floor, lift my bottom just for a moment, if possible, to let my buttock flesh reorganize itself with gravity there, and then straighten the legs away, one leg at a time. And then to make sure that the legs are fully relaxed, what we want to do is we want to just do a nice scooping motion of the foot and take advantage of that scooping motion to the outside, externally rotating the legs there at the hips. And so that hopefully we're nice and comfortable. Now, if you think, oh, I'm not really quite sure, I mean, I've set myself up and I didn't have complete symmetry there of my shoulder blades on the butterfly. Now I've just adjusted and now I'm much more comfortable. Now, I love this position, but I love it even more when I offload my tailbone. So I'm now going to show you what that looks like, and we can use the flat butterfly for that, or we can use a standard butterfly. So because you haven't been with me before, Liz, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we're setting this position up.
Can you see me, or do I need to put my iPad on the floor?
Sorry?
My iPad isn't on the floor, it's sitting on the, so am I in the wrong position? So should I put my iPad on the floor?
Yeah.
Can you see me?
No. But you can move your iPad if you want to so that I can.
Well, I'll probably put it on the floor and see if that works better. Right. Can you see me now?
That's it. Let me put my glasses on, have a look. Okay, so I can see the top of you. I can't see the bottom of you where it's resting on the butterflies. Can you pop it down a little bit more? Can you angle it down a little bit? No, can you angle it sort of towards the floor a little bit more, the top of the screen towards the floor?
Okay.
Okay, it's up looking up at the ceiling now.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to move this
Okay.
controls here, but it doesn't quite want to move. Oh, that's it. That's a lower position now. Is that right? Or not low enough?
No, not low enough.
Right. Better?
No, I'm looking at the ceiling now.
No, let's try it propped up. We try it propped up against that instead. I've got it propped against the. Oh, I've lost you. We lost you.
I'll let you sort that one out for a minute.
On the floor now, propped up against this poof.
So maybe let's just, because we haven't done these ones before, maybe just for now, before you lie yourself down anyway, let's have a look at where the butterfly goes underneath the pelvis. Okay, so I'm going to use the flat one, but I could use the standard one for this. And when I do the supine position on its own, where it's just under the pelvis, I use the standard one. What we're looking for is for the sacrum and the tailbone to be offloaded in the indent there. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got the sacrum coming down here, and then we've got the tailbone, and so it's going to come in like that. So what we will find is that the sit bones, here we are, the back of the sit bones here, they're coming onto that edge of the butterfly about where my fingers are there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So most people have a habit of putting it too high. I'm going to come back in, walk my head in my hands. You can see how it would be really easy to put the head down and be pushing through the back of the head to lift the shoulder blades up. But we don't want to do this. We want to cradle the head there. Walk the shoulder blades up and down, get the comfortable spot. Make sure that I've got the butterfly the right way. The gaze looking down my nose, back of the neck long. Set up the upper limbs here with this gentle scooping motion, resting the palms uppermost. And then I'm going to take in, before I straighten my legs. Oh, actually, one thing I forgot to say, which I really quite like to do, is to walk the feet apart. So the knees are bent up, the feet are flat on the floor, and I walk the feet apart and let the knees drop into the midline. And if I can, just lift the bottom very briefly to let the buttock flesh reorganize itself. But also, what happens with this position is that because we've walked the feet apart, we've slightly internally rotated the thighs. And that internal rotation of the thighs helps to widen out across the back of the pelvis. So in the same way that when we internally rotate the arms, then what we can do is create some space across the shoulder blades at the back, or when we externally rotate the arms, we can widen out across the collarbone. So it's so lovely to take advantage of the internal and external rotation of the limbs to help try and lever something that is very desirable. And in this pose, we want to be nice and wide across the collarbones at the top and then across the pelvis at the back. So what I'm going to do now is push through my feet, lift the bottom up just enough that I can bring the butterfly underneath. And as I rest myself down, I just feel the sit bones on the front edge there of the butterfly. You want to make sure this time what we're doing is we are using the steeper curve and we're letting the the sacrum rest in the steeper curve there. And you can set this up with a flat one or with a standard one. And then once you've got there, you straighten the legs away and then you bring in the scooping motion of the feet there, because what you want to do is you want to keep the width across the back of the sacrum, but let the legs rest in external rotation. And this is where we get a really lovely relaxation. You might find this really nice, Liz. And so as soon as I set that up, because my sacrum is offloaded.
Yeah.
And pretty much the whole of my spine is now offloaded, other than just the point in between my shoulder blades, which is resting on the bridge of the butterfly. What I'm finding is I have like a tingling effect through the whole of my body, and that's where the energy is just really being allowed to flow.
Right, right.
Now, I'm not going to stay there too long because I want to keep talking my way through it, and I find that when I come into this position, it's very relaxing, and then my speech gets slower, and then I can't get my brain into gear. So I'm going to slowly come out of it by removing the lower one first of all, and then rolling over onto my side. But you can stay where you are. I'm going to push myself up slightly.
I've only got a...
So just hold on a moment. I'm going to come a little bit closer so that I can pin your video. Ren, can you just pull the curtain, because I've got the reflection in my eyes, and I can't wherever the sun is coming in. Just oh, brilliant! It's right in the middle, is it? Yeah. Okay, Jenny. Let me. Yeah. You speak up. You hold on. I'm just going to pin your video, love. There you go. Then I can breathe. Off you go.
I've only got a tall and a medium butterfly. Can I use an ordinary block under my sacrum, or would it be best to have nothing?
Have you got 2 blocks, Jenny?
Yeah, I've got 2 blocks. I've got 3 blocks actually.
If you've got 2 blocks, let me go and get mine, and I'll show you how to put them.
Thank you.
It's not quite the same, Jenny. However, if you put, let me get my pelvis here. Right, I need another pair of hands. I'll borrow my trusty Steve here. So if you can hold that one like that, that would be great. And then drop it down a little bit, just looking at where it is in the camera. Get that there. That's it. Like that. So can you see that, Jenny?
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've placed them like that, effectively made like a V shape.
Yeah.
And your sacrum then rests in the corner. It's not, I mean, or you could put them that way. So you can see what I've done is I've put them both longitudinally there. So if you put them together and then you just draw them apart, and then that gives you a nice, now it's not exactly the same, but for sure you can give that a go.
Okay, thank you.
The reason why I really love this when I'm using the one under the pelvis as well as under the shoulder blades is because I just get this whole offloading of the spine. So it actually feels very similar to a sort of a bit of a flotation experience there. And you can also then build that up by putting some cushions under the legs. But that can feel really nice as well under the ankles. And for you, Liz, with your peripheral neuropathy, you may find that this feels quite nice. You may find that you get an improved circulation in the legs. I'm going to be very interested to see
That's something I really need. That's another problem I had too, was circulation in my legs. I have a fluid build up in my ankles every day. I've got quite a few problems.
So I'll get you to share that with me when you sit up, because of my hearing, we've got some real challenges here, but I can't, even with my hearing aids in, I can't hear until I come right up to the camera, and then I can see lip reading as well. So should we do that now? And then just hold. Let me just pin your video. Yes.
I have a fluid retention problem as well in my legs, so anything to circulate fluid in my body is a good thing.
Definitely. So for you,
at night I sleep with a cheese wedge thing under my legs, and that drains it all back.
Right. So what I would say then is, when you do this, what I would do is I would support your legs in some way, and ideally to help the fluid drain, what you would ideally want to do is support the backs of the knees and the ankles, but not actually have pillows, for example, the whole length. So let me just show you how I use the butterflies for that, and then you can look at how you could set that up for yourself. So what I'm going to do is get one more. And then I'm also going to use a bolster for this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rest my ankles. So if you'll just excuse me for a minute, I'm pointing my feet towards you. I'm going to rest my ankles in the butterfly like that. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to leave the backs of the knees unsupported. So I'm going to set those up down at the bottom of my mat, and then I've got a bolster which is a little bit too bulky for me, but that's okay. You can see how you have to sort of set this up piecemeal, really. So that means I've got about the right height there. But you can see how the bolster is a little bit too much. Then I've got a flat butterfly which is going to come in underneath my pelvis, and then once again I set up the standard butterfly underneath my shoulder blades, supporting my head so that I get the sweet spot there. Again, using my gaze to look down my nose, back of my neck long, and then I'm going to bend my knee up so that I can push through my foot, because again, what we don't want to be doing really is that, and kind of overstraining our head at all. So I'm going to push through my foot, lift the pelvis up, make sure that the sacrum is offloaded, feel the tips of my sit bones on the front edge of the butterfly, and then rest the leg away. Now, there you go, and then I rest my ankles there, but my heels are just dropping now. That right one is not quite right. So to come out of it, I just need to adjust that one. So I'm going to lift my bottom up, take that one out, and then always we roll over onto the side. Even when we're making these small adjustments, you want to be a little bit kind of almost over the top about it. And then to come back into it, we always come in the same way. I know these ones are set up right. Ah, that's better. Lovely. So that's all set up right. And then I bend my knee up, push through my foot, lift up my bottom, get that butterfly set up right. Now, the only thing I haven't done is use the circular motion there to widen out across the collarbone. So the circular motion of the hands, and then also what I didn't do was just let the knees drop into the midline and walk the feet apart. So once you've kind of got a pretty clear understanding of where all the blocks are and that they're in the right place for you. And you can see that now, Liz, if you were to look at me for a moment, what you'll
Yep.
see is that the block under the knees, my bolster, it's a little bit too tall. And
Yes.
so what that means is that any fluid is not going to drain effectively from the feet down towards the knees, because of the ankles, the heels are very slightly lower than my knees. So just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to get rid of the bolster. Now I'm actually very comfortable lying like that.
Right.
I'm very comfortable to have the back of my knees unsupported, but some people that would just feel like too much of a strain and it wouldn't be very nice. So in which case you would want to just put in something that just fills that gap sufficiently. Let's see what happens if I use, so any kind of a wedge. You can see I've just put in a standard Buttafly there and it works really well. And it's why, you know, certainly, I mean, I'm not expecting you to have this number of props, but it's why the Buttafly works really well, because of that wedge shape. And often it just means that it just fits in the right spot. And if I was to turn that around in the other way, then I'd probably find that if it rests under my calf there, that will have the same kind of effect. So taking, there you go, that feels lovely. Now it actually doesn't feel as if I've got anything particularly under the back of my knee, but it's just taken the weight of my knee away from the ligaments at the back.
Right. Okay.
I would of course want to have this set up on both sides. So I'm going to come out of this. You can stay where you are if you like, or you can just come on up and then, or just see how you're getting on if you want to ask some questions. How did you find that, Liz?
Yes. I haven't got enough blocks to do the put my feet up. I've got a cheese wedge. Do you know the cheese wedge is? Would that be all right at under my feet? Do you think?
I think so.
That actually elevates my feet just slightly, and it's supported all the way down.
Yeah, I think that would work well. It's really a case of, you know, when you're in situ, you want to have that sense that you're really comfortable, whatever it is, and
Yes.
that definitely for you, you want to make sure that you're also getting that the drainage of the
Yes.
fluid.
Yeah.
So it's a case of finding the right height. Now, of course, I use the Buttaflies. Why wouldn't I? Because they're here and they're comfortable, and they work well for that purpose. But I certainly wouldn't expect anyone to be, you know, getting a couple of Buttaflies to put underneath their ankle. I think that you can find props at home.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. So happy with that one?
Happy with that one.
Brilliant. Yeah. So you'll probably find that that should feel really nice for the spine. It should feel really nice for the hips as well.
Yes. Good.
So are you doing any sitting? Are you doing any sitting, any forward bends, anything like that?
As I do all sorts of things. I do all sorts of things. I use bands. I do a series of exercises when I get up in the morning, stretching this way, that way, twisting, squatting, everything. I've done that for years.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at how we use the Buttafly to help us with a squat. What is something that it's ideal if we could all be doing a squat on a regular basis?
Well, I can only do it holding on to something. I hold on to the towel rail.
That's fine. That's fine.
I can't do it in here. I haven't got anything to hold on to.
So what we'll do is I'll just demonstrate it first of all. So there are two ways that we can use the Buttafly to help us come into a squat. So one of the big problems with coming into a squat with most people is that they don't have the flexibility at their ankles. They don't have the flexibility at the knees or the hips, and that also the soft tissue is quite short. So most people really struggle to come into a squat like this. Now you can see that I can come into a squat with my heels on the floor there, but the only way that I'm stopping myself falling backwards is by having my hands stretched forwards. If I bring my hands in here, you will see that what happens is I just fall over backwards there. So, but my bottom is very close to the ground. I've got quite good range in my hips.
I can't do that at all.
Good range in my knees.
I can't do that at all. It's because I have no balance. I can't do that at all. I talk about squatting. I go into a squat position from standing. I can't do that.
So you can't get this far. Well, let me just demonstrate. So you can have the butterfly under the heels. So even if you're coming from standing, you can see that it's just helping there. You've got a little bit of help with the heels being raised. So that's one way that you can use it. And the other thing that you can do is have either the standard or the tall, depending on your ability. So for me, I quite like to, if I'm going to spend a long time there, so sometimes I'll think about having, for example, my breakfast in this position, where I come into the squatted position, but I have something, a support, which is going to stop me falling backwards. So this is about my my range there. I'm really working into the ankle bend there. So we call that's a dorsiflexion as against a toe pointing, which is a plantar flexion. And by bringing the heels up very close to the block, I'm trying to maximize the movement at the ankles, maximize the movement at the knees, and also at the hips. So this is quite a strong squat there.
Yeah, that's quite comfortable.
So are you in that position now?
Yes.
Let me just have a little, let me pin your video. Yeah, how are you finding that?
Quite comfortable. A little bit of a strain across my lower back because I'm stiff there. That would ease with a bit more practice.
So,
yeah,
so you've got the flat one, haven't you?
Yeah,
as well.
One at the moment.
Yeah. So what you can do is this is where you can then use the stacks of butterflies. So, for example, you might find that if you stack your tall butterfly on the flat one.
Yep. Whoops.
And again, if you can, bring your heels quite close, and it doesn't matter if you need to hold on to something, or if you can reach down for the butterflies there.
No, I can't go down. I can't do that when I'm going down. Oh, I'm down, I'm on there, but I have to get it from the floor.
So what we've done there is by raising the height of the butterfly, you might find that the pull has come out of your lower back.
No, it hasn't. No.
No difference.
No. It's basically, I've got this kyphosis as well, so it's all a bit awkward.
So,
But
well, certainly, I mean, if you've got the two props there, you can see which one you prefer. You can, and then you can play with that. How did you find that, Jenny?
Horrible. Anytime everybody says squat, I groan. I've fallen around so many times trying to get from standing to squat. I couldn't find enough. In the end, I do it on my bolster, and even then, I crashed the last 2 inches onto my bolster. I just tried it just now, and same again. I mean, I was just like I was going to tip myself backwards. I don't
So-
know what it is about squats. I've decided that I can't do it and my body's concurring at the moment.
So are you sitting on the floor right now, are you? You're sitting,
Yeah, but I just squiggled myself onto a tall butterfly.
you're quite close to the position of a squat though, aren't you? I mean, you're not miles away.
But I can't get to it. If I stand up, I mean, if we do toes facing outwards, I've tried, rolled up something under my heels. I've tried blocks under my heels. I piled up so much once to make the floor tall enough. I fell off it. Yes, I just,
Yeah,
I'm working on it. Or I sometimes try and go down the wall.
yeah, Yeah.
Start and then see how far I can actually do it. If we get some momentum going in the class, and we start up and then we squat as low as we can, and then we come up and squat as I can do that.
Yes, so do
But
I.
the last bit, actually sitting down, I mean, it actually scares me. I think I'm just frightened I'm going to fall backwards and hit my head on the wall.
it's one of those things. I mean, if you have anything that you can hold on to, so you know, like maybe a banister, or but something obviously that's very fixed in your kitchen. So even, for example, if you do it with another person, so if you do partner work, it is one of those movements that I can assure you, because I've done this with people. Once you've found the movement in your body, often it's much easier to do it. So you do it a couple of times. So I'm just going to get you, I've got my guest here with me today. Well, actually I'm his guest, but let's not split hairs. So Graham, come on over. If you come and stand off the mat, he gets in real trouble if he stands on my mat. So what we're going to do is if you come a little bit closer, so you hold me, okay? So I'm holding on, so we've got this nice grip. Can you see me there? You see me all right?
Yeah, I can see your
So
hand.
he's nice and strong. Oh, wait, you're falling back. He's falling back. He's going to pull me over. So it works really well if you've got someone that you can trust to hold on to. And once I've found that in my body, I'm going to find it much easier to go down without pulling on him.
I practice when I'm going to a low, I practice when I'm going to a low draw, and I'm pulling out a low draw, because that's almost on the ground, and I can do it momentarily. But in class, when we go into a squat and stay into a squat, I have to put a bolster behind me.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It is okay. I'm just practicing. But it is. I think it's 99% in my head. I was like that with downward dog for ages. I thought, I cannot stay up in this. And somebody said it was the rest pose, and I laughed. But it actually is.
Yeah.
So, oh, and the other one is goddess. It's my
It's what, sorry?
Favorite. Goddess pose, where you're down with your legs out and your hands up, and you're being strong and warrior-like.
Yeah.
Similar.
Well, what I want to look at now is I want to have a look at, because there's another one, nice one for draining fluid, and it's just lovely for, it's a lovely relaxing pose. So this one is Laughing Baby. All right. Now, we can use the butterfly in two ways here. So what we're looking at, if we come into Laughing Baby, what we're looking at is we need a nice range of movement at the knees, the hips primarily, and we need some nice flexibility there through the shoulders, obviously, so that we can grab onto the feet. And also we want to have a nice lengthened spine. But really what we're looking at is having the flexibility in the hips in order for us to come into this position. Now, very often when we don't have that flexibility either in the hips, or what we're doing is we're really providing a stretch to the whole of the connective tissue that goes from the sole of our feet all the way up the back of our legs, across the buttocks, all the way up the low back, all the way up the spine, and comes up onto the top of the scalp here. So that whole line of tissue is really put onto a lengthened course when we come into this position. And it's why, if anyone is compromised in that tissue, we will see when they come into this position that as soon as they go to grab their feet, this is what will happen. Can you see how I'm shortening through the back of my neck there? And so you see this, and this isn't really very nice at all. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that, again, we use the gaze to look down between our legs, down the side of the nose, so that we have length in the back of the neck. But generally what happens is that if people are short in this tissue, they actually just can't do that. And so they just stay with this big lift in the back of the neck here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a standard butterfly underneath the head. So that we've got a pillow. Very simple. Now what we could do, especially since Liz has got both of them, the standard, again what we could do is we could put that one underneath the shoulder blades, put the tool underneath the head there.
Right, okay.
So that again we can come more easily into our laughing baby. I've used the tall butterfly under my head a different way round. Now, because of the shape of my body when I come into laughing baby, if I don't use any props at all, I can be there and I can be quite comfortable. But I do tend to end up resting on these spinous processes. I don't have a lot of adipose tissue, which really bulks me out either side of my spine. So I don't find it very comfortable to stay there for long periods. So I like to use props either in the way that I'm showing you now, or what I can do is I can use a prop the other end underneath the pelvis. So I'm going to come out of this slowly.
That was very uncomfortable for me. That one. That was very uncomfortable. The first one was fine. That was uncomfortable with the blocks underneath. I can't get up there at all. I can't get hold of my toes up there on that one. Doesn't work. No. Everything is strained like that. The first one was great. Completely flat on the floor. With just a small cushion under my neck. Worked beautifully.
I mean, you're absolutely, yeah.
But not the blocks.
So it isn't. So it's not about being prescriptive with the blocks, in that you have to use them in any particular way. It's about taking the blocks, looking at the shape of the block, and seeing how the block helps fill the gap between you and the floor. Yes. And this is where it really comes into its own by being a wedge shape. So let me just have a sip of water. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a standard butterfly. Come on to the back. Bend the knees up. And this time you can see that it's coming up quite high. So it's coming up now so that it's the posterior iliac spine now, which is resting on the butterfly. So I'm going to show you what that looks like on the skeleton so that you can really see. So here we have, if I put my hands on my hips, that's where we are. And then we come down here to this part here, which is the posterior iliac spine. And so what's happening is we are resting the butterfly, so that now, if you like, the body of the sacrum is rested on the bridge of the butterfly, and we're in that position there. So it actually does really feel like you're being held, as long as you're, again, if it works for your body. And then once I'm there, again, I use my gaze looking down my nose, so that my gaze is now directed in between my thighs, back of my neck long, taking hold of my big toes there, soles towards the ceiling, relaxing the hands as much as possible. We're looking for a neutral wrist there, and we're looking for as little activity in the hands as we can have, so that once we've got that hold either of the big toe or even of the ankles, but what we're then doing is we're letting our grip soften, and then the shoulders away from the ears, shoulders falling away from the elbows. And so because I've just got this little bit of support now, I find that I can stay here for much longer. I can really soften in this pose now. One of those poses where I don't really want to come out.
Yeah.
That's lovely, you know, because what you can do is, of course, you know, you can play with your leg position there. So
That's fine.
open out your hips a little bit. It's also quite nice to just do some walking on the ceiling. Lovely one for doing this. You can have your knees a little bit bent, or you can have your knees straight. Work the quadriceps thigh muscles a little bit stronger. Or you can even let the knees bend the whole way and then straighten back up again. All of these moves will really help to pump your fluid out of the lower limbs. Even quite frankly, if you just have your legs up straight and you circle your feet, all of these movements, just dorsiflexing and plantar flexing, pointing,
I can't do this.
all of these using the big muscle groups there. And just getting a notice on my I hadn't realised, sorry, my battery for some reason I hadn't realised the plug wasn't quite in. There you go. Half of the course with today, the way today's going. So when we're looking to really get fluid moving through the body, if we use any of the large muscle groups, so the quadriceps muscles on the front of the thigh, the calf muscles on the back of the shins there, work really well. And I can see I've lost you two. You're completely upside down and happy as Larry there. It's so lovely to spend something.
Well, I'm doing it.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I come down, I get out of the position. Right.
There we go.
Right. Yes.
Lovely.
I can't flex my feet either. I've got a fused ankle on my left foot, and my right foot doesn't move either. I think it moved in sympathy.
Yeah.
All part of my condition. So it doesn't help that I don't move my ankles for fluid retention. I'm not moving my ankles at all. You know, I move my whole leg. I don't move my ankles or my toes.
Yeah.
I try to. Every morning in bed, I stretch my toes, but I do the movement, but I don't achieve it.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can, and also another one I do, if you can see me now, it's sitting with my knees bent and trying to arch my feet and then stretch my toes. It's a movement again like that, which I know what I should be doing, but I can't do it, but I still make that movement every morning.
And one of the things, if you haven't tried it, is that you can use the wedge in this way for putting under the toes.
Oh, yes.
Now, it's a funny thing, but if I go into that, it's not working on the mat. Let me just move the mat out of the way. Now, because of the stretch I've got there, it's changed, and I've got, okay, so I'm feeling the fact that I went out for a run yesterday, and I haven't been doing my stretches. You can't see, let me just, sorry, I didn't even have time to get changed before I came on today. See, because of the stretch that I've got on the back here, the only way that I can stay there is by sticking my bottom out. All right.
Yeah.
I can't stand up straight. Oh, it's a real stretch on the back of the calves. But you can see that that's an exercise in itself. So there's two ways in which we want to be stretching this area of the body. So what are we really looking at when we're looking at this area of the body? Well, we're looking at the ankle joint. So here the ankle joint is in a position that we call dorsiflexion, as against when we're wearing a high heel, that's plantarflexion. So we're looking at dorsiflexion of the ankle joint itself. And then we're looking at the flexibility of the soft tissue, of the deep soft tissue of the calf muscle, and the more superficial. And you might say to yourself, well, how do you feel the difference? Well, I'm going to demonstrate. If you just hold on for a moment. Graham, it's quite distracting. See, now I can really feel that now. So what I'm doing is I'm stretching the superficial muscles on the back of the leg. And these muscles come up above the knee. So the calf muscle is attaching into the sole of the foot here via its tendons, or into the Achilles tendon here down on the heel. That obviously it travels through in the connective tissue, but the Achilles tendon down on the back of the heel here. And then it comes up and it inserts above the knee joint. So I've got a full stretch on that tissue when I've got the knees straight like that, and I can really feel that stretch now. However, if I let the knees bend, I've now relaxed that superficial muscle, and I'm now just working the deep calf muscles, and I'm not able to get any stretch on there at all. Well, I can feel that in my calf, but it actually feels a nice stretch. So when we're working with these, it's really nice to work with the three different components. We're working with the ankle joint, the dorsiflexion. We're working with the deep muscles of the calf complex with the knees bent, and then we're working with the superficial ones with the knees straight. And it's the superficial ones that I can really feel today. So if I was going to stand up there, what I can then really do is work with the Tadasana. So with your mountain pose, just standing there. And what we're looking at doing is keeping some weight on the front of the foot. So if we go to imagine that we have four corners of each foot, so we've got a corner on the ball of the foot just behind the big toe, we've got a corner on the ball of the foot behind the little toe, and then a corner on each side of the heel. We want to get that equal weight distribution between all four corners, and then we want to have a sense that we're nice, that the spine is in neutral, that the pelvis is in neutral, and that the spine has come into a nice alignment. Obviously, I can't show you there with the camera in the way that it's set up now.
Okay, yep, I'll try that.
Does that help?
Yes, I'll have to find something solid to hold on to do that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. How did you find that, Jenny?
That is quite a stretch, isn't it? Quite a pull in the back of the. You know, I always get my calf massaged by calf. That's a real toughie on the calf. Yeah, that sounds like a good one to practice. Yeah.
And that's another one that it can be really good to, if you've got like a yoga chair or a nice big solid dining chair, that you can be holding onto the chair for a little bit of extra support.
Yes. Yeah, I'll do that one.
Okay. So we've got time just for, I'm going to finish off a little bit on time. But what I want to do now is I want to have a look at using the butterfly for a forward bend, because I haven't talked much about this. I have made a video today, and I've put that up on YouTube already. But while you're here, I'd like you to have a go at this, because I think it's something that I haven't really talked about enough. So when we forward bend, the pelvis will naturally roll back into a posterior pelvic tilt. So when we forward bend, all of the spinous processes, they draw apart from each other. That happens all the way down the whole length of the spine. Now, when we come to the joint here between the sacrum and the fifth lumbar vertebrae, exactly the same thing will happen. It opens out. Okay, so what you've got is you've got the base of the sacrum here, you've got your fifth lumbar vertebrae here, and so when you go into a forward bend, you get an opening out of that joint. Now the tailbone is down here, and so what happens is the tailbone tucks under, right? And because there is relative immobility of these sacroiliac joints, these huge big joints in here where the triangular bone at the base of the spine wedges in between the left and right pelvic bones. Because there's relative immobility there, what happens is as the sacrum pulls back with a forward bend, the whole of the pelvis will come back into a posterior pelvic tilt or a posterior pelvic roll. I think that name on the video earlier. So I've had quite a few discussions about this with yoga teachers over the years. And they will have it that you go into, when you go into a forward bend, that actually they're in an anterior pelvic tilt. It's not so. We go into a posterior pelvic tilt, and with the best will in the world, perhaps if you were completely double jointed or you've been doing ballet all your life, you might have some sense of a spine neutral here, but you're never going to have an anterior pelvic tilt. So what does this mean then when we use butterfly? Because the whole idea of the butterfly is that it supports the pelvis in the right way for us to sit with a nice alignment, but it's got a wedge shape on it. It's a wedge shape. And if we then want to come into a forward bend, but the pelvis naturally, as we forward bend, so whether we're doing Paschimottanasana or whether we're doing a one-legged forward bend here, the same deal, the pelvis wants to roll back. And it may be that what you're actually feeling is that the incline surface of the butterfly is preventing that from happening. It doesn't feel very comfortable. So for this, I still want to make sure that my tailbone and the base of my spine is offloaded. So this is where I'll use flat butterfly. So I sit on it in the same way with the sit bones towards the front edge sit bones towards the front edge. I've got that wrong. I've got that wrong, ladies. We're sitting, we're not lying. The sit bones go towards the back edge. In sitting, the sit bones go towards the back edge. So I've got the sit bones towards the back edge there. And you can see that I'm just rocking from side to side, so that as I go on to one side, the buttock flesh can just fall down there. To go down over to the other side, the buttock flesh can fall down. Alternatively, what I can do is just push through my hands and through my feet there and let the buttock flesh reorganize itself, so that what we're looking for is for the sit bone to sink into the middle of your flesh. And what this means is that the pelvis will then be set up really nicely, as against you being slightly over one side or the other, which doesn't feel so great. And the other thing is, I don't like to pick up my buttock flesh and hang it over the back edge. I know that you do that in some classes, but I don't like the stretch that that sets up on the tendons around the sitting bones there. So back into position there. Now, I know that you don't have a flat one, Jenny, but I'm still going to demonstrate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come.
Yeah.
Oh, you do have one.
No, I've just got my sat. I've just got my block out. I just always put a block under my backside when I'm sitting up, because I bend backwards quite a lot. So I'm just sitting with an ordinary block at the minute.
Okay, so you know, if you wanted to do this and you wanted to offload the base of the spine, then you could try this. You would either want two flat ones together, or you use the rectangular blocks,
yeah.
the rectangular blocks as I showed you before, and you get 4 of those. So what you're going to do, it's not quite the same because you've got the support under the thighs, but basically you get your 2 rectangular blocks like that, and then you just draw them apart from each other and you make your V shape there.
Yeah, okay.
So and then from there, a little bit of action in the legs there, and then we're coming forwards from the hips first of all, into the low back. See, I'm quite limited in my soft tissue. That's about as far as I go. And if I add on anything more, I need to just be careful that I'm not overstretching in the thoracic area. It's very easy for me to bend there. So I always want to make sure that I'm going for length. So it's from here, I want my head kind of going in that direction, all the way from my pelvis. I want to be thinking about creating length in that way. Creating length, creating length, creating length. But I'm not collapsing in the middle part of the spine. And so the reason why I like to use the butterfly for this is it means that, as I say, I have my tailbone offloaded and I have my coccyx offloaded. My sacrum. I'm really having a day today. I'm getting all my, I think maybe I'm in brain scramble. I'm going to blame it on the stars, why not?
Yeah, it's not a full moon soon, is it?
Powerful energies out there right now.
That is very comfortable, having 2 blocks like that, because when I try and do a forward fold with just one, I feel I'm sort of holding, I can't fold very far forward anyway, but it doesn't help just having one block sort of pressing in the back of my pelvis. This is actually much more comfy.
Is it? So it's more comfortable for you? That's
Than
good.
just sitting with one block, because I've got my tail tucked down the gap.
That's good. That's really good. Good.
So yeah.
And Liz, how are you finding that?
Not comfortable on a single block, just replaced it with the the first block, put a bit higher because of my curved spine, and
Yeah.
that's much more comfortable. And I can stretch forward, and I'm not putting the strain on my back, not curving over. That's much better.
And so what props are you using now?
Middle one, the ordinary one, the one you stand.
Okay. So
Not the tiny one, the standard one, the standard Buttafly.
so what you might want to do then, Liz, is have you got a regular block like
No.
Liz?
I gave all my blocks to my granddaughter, who's a yoga teacher. I stupidly gave them away.
Okay. So the other thing that you could do is if you've got either a cushion or a fairly flat cushion or a blanket, a folded blanket.
Right.
And then so what I'm trying to do is, what I'd like to do, what I'm trying to encourage you to set up is to use the flat block so that you don't have the inclined surface. Because when you go into a posterior pelvic tilt, the incline can actually just impede. It can just hinder the posterior rotation.
Right, I'll go back onto the single one then.
So if you use the flat one, sorry, but build it up by having a cushion on it or a folded blanket.
Right, I'll start that. I've got a cushion there. And that's better. That's better, much better.
So now if you try a forward bend, now see how that feels. Take your time.
Much better, much better. Yeah. That's great. That's great.
So it's, it's such a little thing. But all the time when we're working with these, it's a case of us really trying to deconstruct them, and look at the mechanics of it. So when we go into a forward bend, the pelvis will rotate posteriorly. And if we've got a wedge in the way, it kind of hinders it. So we want to be on a flat surface, really.
Right.
But as I say, for me, I want the extra height of having a block. And I also want to make sure that my tailbone is offloaded. So if, however, let's just say that I was going to work with keeping my back straight, and I just really wanted to work with keeping my back straight as much as I can and just folding at the hips. Now, a lot of people can go a lot further than me, but that's all I've got there. And so then I'll want to be on the standard Buttafly. I'll want that inclined surface because actually I want some help to keep my pelvis as neutral as possible. I need that help. And sometimes, even just this, even just sitting like this is, for a lot of people, this is really hard work.
Yeah, for me, it's very hard work. Very hard work for me.
And it's so you might want to use the tall one for this.
Yeah, I'm much more comfortable on the tall one.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that's a huge improvement. I'm up straight now.
Perfect.
Straight-ish, yes.
Now, the really lovely thing about this is that when we just come into here. Just hold on for 1 second there. Okay. When we I'm going to demonstrate on the tall one. You know what? Now I'm there. It's too tall for me. I feel like I'm falling off a little bit. So I'm going to come back with the standard one. But before I do that, I'm going to get you to play with a little trick. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the butterfly, as weird as this seems, I'm going to place, so let me see, let me think about what props you've got. So, Liz, if you try sitting on your standard butterfly,
Right.
and Jenny, if you want to sit.
I've got a roller. I've got a roller, you know, big long roller.
So if you're going to sit on the standard one there, and then the tall one, you're going to bring under the thighs there, above the knee. Now let me show you what I'm going to do here. I love this.
That's comfortable. That's good.
Okay, now look what we're going to do. So what I want you to do is, if you can, the first time you do this, I don't want you to be looking at me. I want you to be in your body with your head looking straight ahead in front of you, because it's so lovely and it's so beautiful the first time you do this to really be feeling this in your body. So what I'm going to get you to do is, once you've set this up, you then push through the backs of the knees. So you push through the backs of the thighs and see how that action, you keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, and see how that action lifts you out of your seat. You don't need to think about trying to sit upright. That action of using your legs, can you see how powerful that is? It almost feels like I'm going to take off.
Yeah,
Can you feel that?
I can. It's sending messages all up my legs. Yes, that's good.
So I know you've got the props now. Let me just come in, Jenny.
Yeah.
What have you got there that we can set that up for you? What, remind me what?
A medium and a tall, and a couple of bricks and a couple of blocks.
Which size butterfly?
Medium and tall.
Medium and tall.
I've actually set myself up the way you told Liz. I've got the medium under my backside and the tall under my side.
And how did you find that?
Fantastic. It's like going into orbit. It was really funny.
Just love it.
It's a bit like when you push into your feet. The first time I did that, push into your feet to come up to stand. It's like magic. Your body just comes up.
Exactly. Exactly. It's really, now let me just have let's just have a little look at what happens. I love it. I love that you did that one. Okay, so let's come back into this. It's so much fun to play with that one. Now, the postural muscles, let's have a little look at them. So the postural muscles, muscles broadly speaking fall into two groups. We've got movement muscles and we've got postural muscles. And movement muscles are really long. They're superficial in the body. You can often see them, especially the ones in the spine, especially with someone like me. I don't have a lot of covering on me. And they're long strap-like muscles. And they are designed to move the body. And so if, like my biceps here, they want to switch on and switch off. Switch on, switched off. So they're fast acting, but they don't like to work for long periods at a time. So if when we're sitting, we're using our movement muscles, they get really tired. So anyone who's sitting like this, and we see it all the time in yoga classes, where people are sitting like this, and they've kind of got this chest up, and they're overly extending in the middle part of their back. They do that for about 5 minutes, and then they go, oh, and then they go, oh, and there's this going on, okay? The movement muscles are not designed for posture. We have these muscles called postural muscles, and the difference is, compared to the movement muscles, is they're very happy to work for us. They're endurance. They're designed for endurance. They're long acting. They're also called slow twitch because they take a little bit longer to switch on. But once they're switched on, they're really happy. And they're very deeply placed in the body. And the core muscles, which, and people of course really, it's become a real buzzword, this is the core stability. But really what we're talking about with core stability is we're talking about the deep muscle system of postural muscles that are long acting. What is so beautiful is that when we get the position right in the spine, then the postural muscles will act without us having to do anything. So I am trained in clinical Pilates and I have done some Pilates, but I'm not a big one for specifically engaging the abdominal muscles, because the abdominal muscles are made up of many different layers. We've got the deepest layer, and then we've also got superficial ones. And to be honest with you, the majority of us, if we are engaging our core muscles, we're nearly always getting overactivity in the movement muscles. And if we've got overactivity in the belly movement muscles, guess what? This interferes with the excursion, the natural excursion of the diaphragm as we breathe in. So we don't want to have the belly muscles really active when we're sitting well and we're working with pranayama. We want the belly muscles to be quiet in terms of looking after our posture so that we can then activate them for the purpose of our pranayama, whether that means that we're doing a diaphragmatic breath or whether we're doing, the pumping breath, sort of fire breathing, anything where we're actually really activating the abdominal muscles. But we can't be activating them for pranayama if actually they're being used to hold our posture. So by really working with this position where what we do is we have this block under the legs and we're really training those postural muscles of the spine. And they're lovely. They're very, very deeply placed and they just literally pass between 1 and 2 segments. So that one is 1 and 2 segments, that one is 1 and 2 segments, that one is 1 and 2 segments, and they make this beautiful web, all the way up the spine. So when you feel that lift through your body, but you're not actually feeling any hard work in the spine, what you're actually doing is you are activating those postural muscles, and you can start to build your endurance. You just stay there a little bit longer and a little bit longer and a little bit longer.
When I'm pressing my knees into the block, I tend to tense up my buttock muscles as well. Is that a good thing or not, or should I not do that?
You don't want to be consciously activating your buttock muscles, no. Okay, you want them to be quiet.
Just the legs?
Yeah. Let me just try that for myself. Let me just see what I'm feeling when I do that.
I'm sitting on the small block with it. Yeah, I'm sitting like that.
That's a really good question, Liz. Ideally, you want to feel it in the legs. You don't want to be clenching your buttock.
Right. Okay.
This means that you will actually be really getting that action from the hamstrings on the back of the thigh, the quadriceps on the front of the thigh. And the other thing that I'm doing, by the way, is I'm making sure that I can still wiggle my toes. So I'm not clenching all the way through my legs. So well done, Jenny. I can see you wiggling your toes there. So I'm pushing. We've got activity there in the quadriceps muscles on the front of the thigh, the hamstrings on the back, buttocks relaxed.